So if you cannot agree together on a baby name, then this is probably the list for you, because this is Sweet Spot baby name. So Sweet Spot is kind of different for everyone, but if you're watching a baby name video, I reckon that you're after a name that's sort of between 150 in the charts and 250, so way outside the top 100, but it's not unique. It's easy to say and spell. You've probably heard of it before, but maybe not considered it for your list. So grab your naming partner if you have one, get your pen and paper out. We're going to challenge you a bit. They're a tiny bit challenging. Sometimes you're a bit like, I don't know, I've never thought of that before, but this is a time to relax. Bring your baby into your mind's eye, or your imaginary baby. No judgment here, name nerds. We got each other. And I'm going to go through my top 20 boy names in the Sweet Spot and my top 20 girl names in the Sweet Spot. My name is SJ, I'm a baby name consultant, OG here on YouTube. I'd love you to subscribe to my channel for tons and tons of baby name inspo, and you can find me at baby name envy on Instagram too. I think somebody called Ivan, I just think that they're always going to be quick-witted and make you smile, but a little bit on that sort of cheeky side. So I think it's a really great name, really unusual and underused, right down at number 248. I did look at what other people were saying about this name, and reviewers said, I think Ivan is a beautiful name. It sounds gentle and strong at the same time. It's classy and it ages flawlessly. That was a comment from a user on behindthename.com, where you can go and geek out on names. Somebody else said, if I had a male child, I would call them this because I love the nickname Vanya. I think it is so cute. So it had a lot of overwhelmingly positive comments on behindthename.com, which I thought was really good to know. Next up at number 242 in the charts is the name Remy. This would be even higher if you added all the spellings of it, because it's also in there with the Y, and so probably is used a lot more than just the two different spellings. It's a great name. French, it means oarsman. It's also a little rat in Ratatouille. Which isn't really its namesake, but I really like this name. I feel like if you're going for vintage ones like Reggie and Ronnie, then jumping onto Remy has got that sort of little bit uniqueness to it that makes it more in this sweet spot of names that aren't overused, but you've all heard of them. So I can see why this is gaining in popularity. By the time your little Remy starts school, they're probably going to be a really well, solidly used name. That didn't sound quite normal, but you know what I mean. Josiah is at number 240 in the charts. A really great name, particularly because we have Noah so high up in the charts, and I feel like you've got those really nice playful nicknames. Like, I've always loved the nickname Joey. I think it's quite underused, or Joe. So a really great name, and I feel like it's really trendy with how different it sounds with the "ire" at the end, and really opens itself up into loads and loads of great surname blends as well. So it really works as a sibling, and if you've got a strong surname. Eden is at number 226 for boys. It's obviously a gender-neutral gem, and it means paradise garden. I really love the name Eden for both boys and girls. Do you? I just think it works so well. Like, if like me, your favourite colour's green, you probably like the name Eden. I'm just gonna put that out there. Let me know, is your favourite colour green? Do you like the name Eden? Is this a scientific fact? The name Micah has gone up a tiny bit, but is staying in the sweet spot. It's at number 225, and I do see this on a lot of name lists, but it's not getting overused at the moment. Sometimes it's said Mika, but traditionally it should be Micah, because it is a short form of Michael, but it doesn't come across as like a nickname, does it, Micah? It feels like a full name. I think it's a really, really great one. It got the AH ending of Noah again, so it really plays into that style. And I feel like it's playful and fun, doesn't take itself too seriously in Micah. Next up is the name Casper. So this was on my name list for literally for my second and third. Turned out third was a girl. And I really liked it, but I didn't get it quite over the edge. It means treasurer, because it's from the same as Jasper and Gasper, who was associated with the three wise men. So it's a really great name, but I see it everywhere now, and it always niggles at me as one that got away. So it's at number 218. Not sure if I said that. So I had a look on that website to see what people are saying about it. It came up as 78% nerdy, which I kind of love, but the opposite was unintellectual, and you could only pick one or the other, so maybe skewed a little bit, but I loved it. Came up as classic, mature, formal and upper class, and I think that that is what a lot of people want from a vintage name. I do get people saying, you know, a name that makes them seem quite posh, and like people like that style, and Casper just ticks into that category. It really does. But then around in Scandinavia, like in Sweden, it's not so much of a posh name. In Denmark, Henrik works with 1 million people called Casper, but they are maybe quite posh. Who knows? I've never met them. But I love the name, love it, and love to see it on the rise. The next name really surprised me, number 217, and it's the name Milan. So do you know a little boy called Milan? Do you know why this is trending? well, why it's so popular in the sweet spot. It's got a really interesting history. So Milan actually is obviously the Italian city, I should say, very famous more for Fashion Week and being fashionable, but it's also the home of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. I really got into something about Dan Brown then, I was going to say. Something about that book, the Da Vinci Code, I was going to say. No, the Last Supper, Leonardo da Vinci is housed there. There's lots of Gothic architecture. It's a really, really beautiful city. And I looked at why Milan was called Milan, because I'm always interested in it. And it was originally, Romans called it Milan Mediocum, which meant central place. So it was quite, there's always this battle between Milan and Rome of what was the most important to the Romans. But I really love the name Milan, and I'm really happy to see it where it is. Why do you think that it's getting so much use? I've never met a little Milan in real life, that's why I'm wondering. The next name, these aren't in alphabetical order, is Maximus. So these are just in order of popularity. So getting more and more popular. So it's at number 219. It actually is going down. So that's why I was really interested in this. It's gone down quite a few places. I think that's really fascinating because it's a long name, and it was on a lot of name lists a while ago. And I quite like the idea of grabbing a name sort of when it's sort of having a little bit of its less popularity moment. And it's a title name, so it means greatest. So it's just the Maximus. Obviously people then go for the nickname Max, but the reason to use the long name is it's got that grandeur to it, and it's that title name. No, we use name Roman, we use names like Saint now. Maximus meaning the greatest is really cool. Very much the same sort of vibe as an Ivan or an Axel that we talked about earlier. Really interesting to see that it's going down, but it's still quite high. I would say 219. It's quite a good ranking. Next up is the name Francis. Francis, but with the IS, is actually masculine, and with the ES, it's feminine. And I feel like some of the names that are vintage but gender neutral haven't yet come back. I'm thinking of like Leslie and names like that. Leslie, I did write down another one, Lindsay, that's it. They haven't quite come back. They feel very firmly feminine. But I know 2 children called Francis, little boys, and I've really like the name. I just think for me it's a really quintessentially cool name, but we all have associations with name, and we all have our own sort of lens that we look at them through, and that's why this sweet spot is a little bit more challenging than just looking at more popular names or more straightforward rare names as well. It is a little bit of a am I sweet or sour? Now, retro kitsch was a trend that I really have seen in the charts for this year, and the next name is the name Rudy. That's going really up for boys, so it's at number 188 name. So it was mad in the 1920s, where it was like a top 200 name, more in the US than over here. That was Rudy Valley, the big singer, made it really popular, and it is short for Rudolph. That song just literally took the name out, didn't it, for so many years. But I wonder, would you be brave enough to use Rudy? Obviously lots of people are. It is quite high up in the charts. 176, the boy named Phoenix, which again is gender neutral, and we know this more as a mythological bird, and I love it. I think it's so well known as a name since River Phoenix, the main actor from the 90s, but I think it just works really well with some Harry Potter vibes, isn't it? Always going to be Phoenix, and this idea of coming back through the flames is just a really evocative idea that a lot of people like, and has a lot of meaning to a lot of us. Looking at the actual name meaning, it comes from, some people say it comes from the Greek word for colour, which was phonius. I'm not going to get that right, or traders, but I think it is super wearable. As edgy as it is, it's just wearable because we know it so well. 176 in the charts is a good spot. Also at 176, exactly the same number of boys were called Rio, which means river. So Phoenix and Rio, that's why River Phoenix, just got it. I love the name, it's really cool. I looked up some associations that people had voted for when it comes to the name Rio, and it came up as modern, youthful, informal, strong, refined, and simple. So those are all really positive ticks towards the name Rio. Again, I really like it. Actually, know somebody with a little boy called Rio, and I just think it's always really cute. Think of Rio Ferdinand, some people, or the Disney movie Rio. Which, funny story, I told my friend to watch the Rio Ferdinand documentary because he did a documentary about losing his wife to cancer, and I was like, it's really emotional. And then I forgot we spoke about it, and then a few weeks later he sent me a text and said, watching Rio, feeling really emotional. And for some reason my head clicked to Rio, the Disney movie, and I was like, oh, okay, hope you're right. Thought, well, that's not a sad movie, but it just took me ages to figure out what I'd done. So lots of reasons to like the name Rio. This next one I'm fascinated by. So it's at 156 in the boy charts, and it's the name Dexter. Reason I'm fascinated because this was such a hit a few years ago. I feel like it was really trending. A lot of people had the name Dexter, and then it sort of, and maybe when that show came out where Dexter was like a sort of a psychopath, maybe people went off using the name a bit, and I really like it. I think it's almost to the point for me where it's sort of, I forgot about that name and I love it. Kind of cool. There was also Dexter Fletcher, if you remember him from Press Gang. I was like, where do I know the name Dexter from? There was Dexter's Laboratory. So I think it's a really, really cool name. It means dyer or right-handed. So dyer was from the surname where it was a trade name, a Dexter or something, was somebody who dyed fabrics, and then right-handed is where we get dexterous from, to be like dexterous, which is really interesting. If you're very dexterous with your right hand, you might want to call your baby Dexter. But I really like the name. I feel like it's really playful, really cool. Three more boy ones. I have Kit. So we talked about Kit a lot on this channel. I do really like it, but I wanted to add it on this because it's at number 154. So just in the sweet spot of not being too popular. Can think about it. Obviously it's a nickname for Christopher. Kit Marlowe was really known as Kit. Christopher Marlowe, the famous playwright. Really nice namesake. Obviously it is also a baby cub. A baby cub? A baby fox cub. A baby fox. It's not called a cub, it's called a kit. But I love it. And then Lenny. I was so surprised to see Lenny at number 153. It means brave as a lion, and I love it. And I feel like with more popular ones, like my little boy's called Freddie, and it's quite a simple, unchallenging name, whereas Lenny just a little bit cooler, a little bit edgier. So I think it's a really good one, and I feel like it sits up with Alfie's and all those sort of nickname names, Reggie's, Ronnie's that are really popular. Lenny's a little bit more of a unique choice outside the top 150. So do, if you like that style, put it on your name list and sit with it for a little while. I think it's a great one. And last up is the name Cooper at number 151. Now, I've only just watched Emily in Paris, so I keep thinking of her being called Cooper. If you haven't seen it, it's actually very good. I enjoyed it. Late to the party, really liked it. Surname as first name, it came up as, in that behind this name forum voting thing, it came up as youthful, informal, common, and weirdly, they asked if it was urban or natural, and it came up as more natural. So maybe people were thinking of copper, whereas I feel this is quite urban with the surname as first name, Cooper. Really, really cool name. Lovely to see it in use, and it'll be interesting to see if it carries on up and gets in the top 100. So very quickly onto the girl names, because I know I've been talking for ages. Same idea for girls. I'm going to start from about 250 and work up to about 150 and pick out names that I think you guys are really going to like in your sweet spot. So think about the ones you've got on your list and think about if these feel like they vibe with it. So a good way of saying, is it an alternative? Does it feel like a sibling name to it? Does it have the same sounds and letters as it? Does it have the same meaning? Can you see it sort of them being like friends in the same year at school? Whatever your sort of name list is that you're trying to expand on, pair them, and then it might be you prefer one of these more sweet spot names. So the first one is the name Skylar. So if you have sort of like a Sophie or a Lily, then Skylar sort of does still have those same sounds, but it's much more unique at number 248. It comes from the Dutch word scholar, so I always think that's really, really nice. My cat's weirdly called Skylar, not for that reason. She's not that scholarly, but I love the name. I think it's really, really beautiful. It's actually a name that I would always really like for myself. That's probably why I gave it to my cat. I always thought I could be a Skylar. I just find for me, it makes me feel very joyful and very like happy, like I love the sky. I do. He doesn't like the sky, and it makes me feel of like, you know, like almost flying. I don't know, Skylar, does it to you? But I just always have loved the name, and I also like the kind of like a almost Southern Belle vibe to Skylar. I feel like I could pull that off. Anyway, I've gone weird. How about the name Pearl? It's at number 248. I was never sure why Pearl was a short form for Margaret, so I tried to figure out the conundrum. So I love the name Pearl, one syllable name. It is so vintage, but also just so wearable now, and I just think it doesn't get used enough. I'm so shocked that it's down at number 248. So I thought there would be this big mystery around why it's a diminutive or a nickname for Margaret, but it was just that the Greek word for pearls is basically Margaret. So that's what why it is that. So I love the name again. I think that it's so playful for a little girl. My friend Louise Pentland, who you probably know from YouTube, she has a little girl named Pearl, and it's just this idea of them being such a gem and such a joy in your life and such a one of a kind. There's so many reasons to absolutely love the name Pearl. Next up is the name Noah for a girl. So Noah's at number 247. So this always seems like it's a girl using a boy's name, but they are actually two separate names right back in history, and they would have slightly different pronunciations, but we just say the same, Noah. Really like it. I think that a lot of people really like it, gets a lot of positive responses. And if you think about names like Robin, we've always used them for boy or girls, and I feel like Noah really fits into that. So it's nice to see it quite high in the charts in this sweet spot. So do consider it if you love the sound of it. It sounds super feminine to me. You might have it on your boy list and have not considered it, and do play around with it and switch it over. How about the name Dottie? So Dottie's a really fun name. It's at number 243. There's so many associations with it, because for some people it sounds dead modern, but then it's also vintage with it was for Dorothea actually. Dottie became the nickname. For me it's very, very youthful, and I feel like with this one I would use the full name, because I wonder when you're sort of a teen if you're going to want to be called Dottie as much, or because you might not want to go to Dot, but I feel like when you're older again you can own it again, whereas I don't know Dottie, but I think it's so good. It's such a great name. What do you think? I feel like whenever I looked at a lot of stores that were called Dottie, because it kept coming up as like a clothing store or a homeware store, and they're all really vibrant, really colourful, really playful, with a bit of that vintage charm. So I think that's exactly tick what you're getting with a Dottie. Seren is at number 226, Welsh name, beautiful name meaning star. Really lovely way to honour a Sarah, because it sounds so similar, but it's actually rising through the charts steadily and slowly, but it's always been in this sort of sweet spot area. And I think it's a really, really, really gorgeous one. This name I've not really heard that much, so I was really interested to read more about it. It's the name Inaya, I-N-A-Y-A, Inaya. Sometimes comes up as Inaya, but the pronunciations that come up most often, you let me know how you say it, and I'm sure it can be said either way, was Anaya. It's at number 225, and it was at 273 last time they did the rank, so it has gone up quite a lot. And it's got this beautiful meaning, because it means to care or to have concern or to help. And isn't that such a beautiful name meaning? Apparently it's been very, very popular around France, Belgium, Netherlands for a long time. Let me know if you are from those regions, if you've heard of the name Anaya. And I just think it's really lovely, so soft. If you love Isla, Isla's one of our, I think it's the third most popular name, then you might bounce onto Anaya and have something a lot more unique and with that lovely meaning as well. Lena is at number 221. Now I had this on my name list, but Henrik would say, because it's more used in Scandinavia, he sort of says Liena, sort of adds an extra bounce into the E, and then I didn't like it as much personally, Liena, but Evelina we have as our daughter in the end, so it comes from the ending of Magdalena. Now I'm doing it with a funny accent, like when you talk in the language. I try not to do that, which I know sometimes means that it's just all in my English accent, but I can only do it. It's the only one I got. Lena, I love it, and it means light shining star, Lena. I love that it's in use. I think it's so pretty, and I do think it would be maybe my nickname for my daughter Evelina. Her nickname might be Lena, because I think it's so pretty. I love it. It feels to me very, bit like Lenny, like for a boy, but it's so pretty for a girl. It's got some charm about it. The next one, I was so excited to chat to you about it, because it's the name Quinn, and I feel again, I actually know somebody's got Quinn and a Dexter, so maybe why to me that just feels like these names were sort of about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, they were really booming, and it's just really nice to remember them. Quinn, I remember it from Glee. I was like, what's the TV show? It was Glee. They had a girl named Quinn. I think that's the first time I'd heard it. I think it's lovely. I feel like Quinn and Pearl are really on a par with this one syllable, but really, really cool. It's got Irish roots actually, where it was a O'Quinn sort of Cian, and then it became Quinn, and it means wise or to have sense or to have reason. So that's a really, really good selling point. It's a very serious name. It's a serious old Irish surname, whereas Quinn actually feels really kind of like, I don't think it does sit alongside things like a Blair, things like a Sloane, but for me it's much more feminine, it's much more gentle as well. What do you think? Maybe because it sounds a bit like quiet or something. Gotta go quick, because I've been chatting for so long, but I didn't want to leave you with not a full amount of names. So I've got Talia for a girl. Really likes Talia, and it's Greek, and it actually's got a happy Greek myth I found. Can you believe it? Because they're normally so doom and gloom. So Talia was the 8th of 9 muses, and she was like the muse of comedy, which is really unusual. But back then, apparently, comedy was mainly used for like fertility ceremonies, where they would do like a sort of little funny thing about having a baby, where Talia would like act it out. So I just thought that was really, really fun to know. So if you're like love to laugh, then Talia could be really good. And for me, it almost sounds floral. It's a really pretty and unusual name. It actually means to bloom or young shoot because of that association with fertility ceremonies back in the Greek times with this comedy. So really, really lovely name, Talia. Really like it, and I've always liked it, but at the moment I just thought, God, actually really crushing on that name. So you can add the H there as well. The only watch out with this name is that some pronunciations I was reading were more two-syllable, like Talia, Talia, and then there's Talia, Talia, so they're slightly a little bit different. So there's a tiny watch out that you might get that's muddle up with that, but I would say Talia in my pronunciation. But a beautiful name with a really cool history. Nola is at number 214. So this is short for names like Fionnuala, like the Irish names. You could have it as short for Magnolia, I was thinking, which I really, really do love. It's a really lovely name. Apparently in Finnish it means zero. Is Nola the Finnish word for zero or nil? Let me know. And it also is short for New Orleans, Louisiana is Nola, which I think is a really cool fun fact. If you're a blues fan, you might really love that. Why, give you a good reason to use Nola at 214. Billy's at number 208 here in the UK. I think that Billie Eilish has got a lot to do with that. Always love this name. I think it's really interesting how Billy is one of the only names that we correctly use the IE for a girl. So Y is masculine and IE is feminine, but then with Freddie we use IE, whereas really we should use Y because it's masculine, but we got it right with Billy. Well done us, everybody in the world, not me personally, but we've all done IE for Freddie, IE for Alfie, whereas really they should be Ys. But interesting fact, don't tell Freddie, my Freddie. Love it. We did talk about the name Billy really recently. I know it was absolutely, I feel like it fits alongside a lot of these names. The next one is the name Vienna at number 197. This is one of the fastest rising girl names of the year last year. One of the trending girl names was Vienna. And I am shocked, again a bit like Milan, like it's a place name, it's in Austria. A place in Austria, really, really love it. Just let me know if you know why Vienna is trending. I wonder if it's a bounce on from Siena, which has become really, really popular. It was number 270 last year and it's at 197. It's massively trending. I looked up how people associated, what words they associated with Vienna, and it became as mature, formal, upper class and wholesome and refined, which I was quite surprised about because sometimes place names go the opposite. And Vienna as a place is known as the city of music. There were a lot of composers who lived there and worked there. Really, really gorgeous place with the Alps, the outdoorsy vibe of it, Vienna. Love it. I absolutely love it. So happy to see it trending. Apparently the German name for Vienna is Vienne with a W, and it came back to meaning like good wine in one association. I went back, so I thought, well, a good wine 9 months ago is what got you your little Vienna. Then it should be her name. Next up is Penny. Penny means weaver, short for Penelope. I talked about it before. Really lovely vintage nickname as first name. Is now at number 196. I feel like it's actually better, works better from what I was saying with Dottie, where it feels a little bit like it's a little bit young. I feel like Penny somehow, because it's a little bit more vintage vibes rather than the vintage kitsch, works really well for their whole life. This is very personal lens, but have a think about it. If you've got Dottie on your list, you might want to add Penny and see how you feel about thinking about them at every age and how it works through and how you can play with it. Obviously you're thinking of Pen from Bridgerton at the moment. Are you watching Bridgerton? Do you suddenly think the name Colin is like sexy and nice? Because I do. And next is Piper at 191. So this is like Harper. It's Piper was a pipe player. Harper's the harp player. So really lovely name. I feel like this is so playful again. It feels very American, but it has started to come over here and rise through the charts. Really lovely. Think about the Pied Piper of Hamelin. If you want a more sort of traditional fairy tale reference, who was enchanting the animals, that could be a really lovely reference for your little Piper. Naomi is at number 100. 177, meaning pleasantness. That was my sister's name, a gorgeous name, lovely to see it in that sweet spot. Lydia is at number 173, and I've always loved this name. I feel like it's a rare traditional gem that hasn't been used enough. I just think it is beautiful. Our neighbour was called Lydia growing up, and me and my sister are always obsessed with her name. But you don't hear it so often. I think if you've got like Lila, Lily, or even Delilah with those D names, even Margot, I think, lends itself to a Lydia. The strong consonant in the middle. Lydia could be a name for you. So as I said, it's number 173, and it means beautiful one. And interestingly, Lydia was a place. It's a place name. Really interesting. It's also the littlest sister in Pride and Prejudice. So if you like literary names, Lydia could be great for you. Ariella is at number 168. It means strong as a lion. Get the feeling this is a bit more made up because Ari meaning lion and then the Ella at the end. But really lovely. Maybe a longer form of Ariel as well. If you really like Ariel or Ariel, Ariella, really, really pretty. Esther is at number 160. So this means star. This is where I got the Persian from. This means star. I just love this name. We have a niece named Esther, so it's a little bit of a personal one for me, but I think got the vintage tick tick tick, got the star name tick tick tick, which I think is really lovely for a little girl or any child to have a little symbol that's associated with their names, and you can have little stars for them. I think it's really, really pretty. And then you can either do it with the H or without. Don't know what your personal preference is, but I think it's a really gorgeous name. So the last sweet spot name I have is for girls. It's the name Harlow. It's at number 149, so just outside the top 150. Beautiful, beautiful name. We did talk about this last week when I did some dilemma. It means rock hill or army hill, and it's got that nature vibe going for it so much. The lovely nickname Low as well, which I absolutely adore. Harlow, I feel like if you've got names like more of those modern word names on, those whimsical word trend, let me know if you want that next week because I love the whimsical word trend. Don't we all? Then I will do a full list, but I absolutely love Harlow. So I hope that's challenged you in a good way, that has made you think about maybe the safe names you like and how you can make them a little bit more rare, or even the more unique names that people have vetoed off your list, and you can rein them in a little bit and go, actually these names are in a really good spot in the UK, which means they're getting a lot of views, and they will keep going up over the next few years by the time your little one starts school. This is sort of where the trends start in the sweet spot. So thank you so much for watching. Do hit subscribe if you love all things babby names. I'm always here. Love, love, love to chat names, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.